Most people drop the ball after someone fills out their form. They either reply way too late or not at all. And every time that happens, there's a chance that the lead moves on, cools off, or just forgets why they reached out in the first place. So how do you fix that? Well, you build a system with a well-written response and alerts so no leads fall through the cracks again. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build a smart autoresponder that instantly replies to inbound leads using GPT, logs everything in Airtable, and even routes messages based on who's reaching out. It works with Jotform, Gmail, and Airtable, but you can swap these out for tools like Typeform, Google Forms, or Outlook so that it fits your tech stack. If that sounds good, let's go ahead and jump into it. Okay, so here we have our inbound lead autoresponder automation workflow. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to run you through a demo of it, and then we're going to go through each node step by step, and I'm going to explain to you how it works. Real quick, you'll see that the Airtable is empty. There is nothing in the testing ground Slack channel, and our form is empty. So let's go ahead and start this workflow. And to do that, for a Jotform, we need to actually hit the test workflow first because it's going to listen for an event, and then we're going to fill out the form, and that will trigger everything. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and hit submit on the form and make sure this is still listening. And hit submit, and then the workflow will start. And look at that, all done. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through each node step by step and explain how everything works and what we're doing. So the Jotform trigger is the first node. That is what is listening for an event from Jotform, from a form that somebody fills out. When this is turned on, you shouldn't have to hit anything. It should just happen automatically. But because I do not have this as an active workflow, you need to hit the test workflow button first and then submit the form. And then in this form, you're going to get all the form data. So you're going to get the name, you're going to get the last name, the email, the what best describes you question, which was the dropdown. And then you're going to get the description, what the prospect added to the field. And then we have a set node. What we're doing with the set node is we're flattening the data, which just means to, rather than having multiple layers to the data, so you see like name is, like the first layer, and then you have first and last as the next layer. This makes it all top layer. It makes it much easier to access future nodes. One of the reasons why we need that is because we have a switch here. And the reason why we have a switch is so that we can send the information, particularly the message and what the user is looking for, through different HTTP nodes, which have different prompts in them to produce a different message and response for Slack and for email. And so we're going to send everything through a switch, and so that everything is, all the messages are routed properly. So everyone, so the user gets a very, very specific tailored message to them. And then, whether it's a salesperson or the CEO or whoever's handling the messages, they know what the person is looking for when they get to the message and before they reach back out to them. So what I did here with the switch node is everything is tied to the routing here. And to make sure I didn't run into any errors, what I ended up doing with that, to show you real quick, here's the dropdown. Made the dropdowns very specific. And the reason why I made them dropdowns is so they were specific. And so I wouldn't have to worry about the user typing in something and then me having to come up with logic that would work with that and not break, like using regex. Didn't want to have to do that. And so what I do here is we take the route and we drop it into the first field. We say is equal to, because it's going to be that specific thing in the dropdown. So a solar founder or small team, growing company or enterprise, looking for a partnership or collab in general, which is a one-to-one match of this. And then we send that through, and you'll see the different outputs here, which lines up with the different HTTP nodes here. Now, to avoid having to blank out my tokens, I already opened one of the prompts. This is for, I believe, for the general or the enterprise one. And it's just a basic prompt here. It's, you're responding to a lead from a growing company or team running an agency. Write a professional but friendly email that thanks them for reaching out. Briefly highlight how we can help and invites them to take the next step, like scheduling a call or replying with more info. And it's just, just very basic information on how to respond to the person, whether or not you, what your name is. In all of mine, I mentioned not to write the subject line because I like to do that in the Gmail node. So I have a little bit more control over what subject line we're using. So I mentioned to write on the body copy, how to sign off, and also a little fail safe here. If the first name is missing, if someone didn't fill out the form, you can start the email with a hi there. And I do mention not to assume you know their name, because I found that the GPT would look at the email and assume it knew what the user's name was, and it didn't always match. And so the messages would route through there. It would go to the extract GPT message. And the idea here is similar to the capture inputs, to where we want to flatten the data to make it easier to use later. Now, you probably don't need it with a workflow as simple as this, because there's only a couple more nodes. But the further down you go, the better I think this is. It just makes the data easier to access. It's just one of those things where the data just kind of gets stacked, the more nodes you have, and it can be sometimes hard to grab what you're after. And then after that, I have a wait node. Actually, pop this up real quick and just make sure there's nothing else to show you. Yeah, it's just the message here. So you see all this data coming from the previous node. And we also, not only do I want this to be more accessible, because you see this is a couple layers down, but I also don't need everything else. And so now I have just the information I need, nothing else. Super easy to grab, and just super simple to use. So next node is a wait node. I have this in place so that it doesn't seem like we're so eager or using bots when responding. Mostly the bot thing. If you have it, if you're responding immediately, it's not, it doesn't feel as legit or genuine. It does feel automated. I do have it set to 1 second just for testing purposes, but I would bump this up to, 30 seconds, a couple of minutes, however long you want to wait. I mean, you could, even with a lead, realistically wait, a day, depending on how your industry works. Now, if you want to, get them while they're a little bit harder than that, then, maybe you wait 10 minutes, 30 minutes. You can adjust this to whatever you want. And then the next step is we go to the email node, and we use the information, I believe, from the capture inputs, which is the first set node. And again, because we made everything, flatten all the data, we made it super easy to access even further down the chain. And so we're just able to drag and drop this all into the appropriate fields. You can see here we have a partially fixed, partially flexible subject line here. And then at the bottom, we chose to remove the n8n attribution, because that's automatically added to all emails. And then what we did is we created a new lead in Airtable, again, using everything from the capture inputs and then also from the extract GPT message. So we have a little bit of context when we go into Airtable to follow back up with the lead, or if they respond to us, we can go and see what the message was that we sent. So you have full context going into that conversation. And again, because we flattened all the information and made it easily accessible, it was just easy to grab everything we needed, and you can see all the data here. And then the last thing we did after all of this is done is that it posts the details to Slack. This may or may not be important to you, but if you run a sales team and you want to get to leads while they're hot, there's just another way to make sure that they don't fall through the cracks. So real quick, you'll see here that this is from, there it is. So this is the email that we sent to the prospect in the Gmail node. And then of course, Jotform sent a message to them as well. And then here is the Slack message that we sent. And so I'll open that up real quick, show you how we set that up. We took the message here. We decided to send a channel message. We chose the channel, just wanted a simple text message. And then everything is using variables. So that way we can use the appropriate name, the email, and the message, and a message from the prospect. And then we also added the GPT reply done earlier from the HTTP node. And again, just for context. So if somebody didn't hop into Airtable first, they can see everything they need from the Slack message, just to save a little bit of time. So you can see here in the Slack message, everything that is in that node. So new lead response sent, the name, email, the message from the prospect, and then our GPT reply that we sent to them by email. And then there's the email as noted earlier. And then here is the Airtable record that we created with it. And there you have it. That is the inbound lead autoresponder workflow. As you can see, a super simple workflow that's going to take a bit of work off your plate and save you some time. Also, it's very customizable. You can go into any one of these HTTP nodes. You can change the prompt to tailor the message to your particular client or prospect or industry. You can do the same thing with the switch node. You can go into Jotform and change this around to whatever is going to work best for you. And you can probably customize this in the span of an hour or two at most, unless you needed to make some really heavy duty changes. So I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Hit the notification bell if you never want to miss a future YouTube video or tutorial from me. And if you want this template and all the other templates I give out for free, all you need to do is go over to my website, sign up for my email newsletter. The link for that is in the description below. And with that, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.